My brother-in-law enjoys insulting others with the excuse that he is just being honest. But when my wife is honest with him, suddenly, he acts like a prince. I am using a temporary account because I have coworkers on my main account, and I do not want them to find out about this family drama. Also, forgive my spelling if it slips at times. I am furious right now. As required, all names have been changed. For context, I am 36 years old and married to the love of my life, Kai, who is also 36. We first met when we were 17. At that time, she was open and proud, while I was still closeted, so we did not start dating until I came out at 21. We eventually got married in 2019, and now have a 4-year-old adopted son named Jack. This will be relevant in a moment. My 27-year-old sister, Sarah, has been in a long-term relationship with her boyfriend, Steve, who is 28. They have been together for 8 years, and the entire family has disliked him since the very first moment we met him. He is rude, arrogant, overbearing, and generally a horrible person. He likes to claim that he is just being honest. But if anyone responds honestly to him, he flies into a rage and throws a tantrum like a little kid. In fact, my youngest son is better behaved than he is. To be fair, he is not abusive towards Sarah and does not make those comments to her. It is only with the rest of us. In fact, he is a decent companion to her and treats her well, which is his only redeeming quality. Still, my dad and Kai hate him the most and do their best to avoid him at family gatherings. Kai usually ignores him and pretends not to hear anything he says because she does not like conflict. However, there have been a few times when she has responded, usually in a playful way, which makes my dad laugh a lot. My mom plays the role of peacemaker and will do whatever it takes to avoid drama, often changing the subject whenever Steve starts talking. But she, along with my grandparents, dislikes him as much as the rest of us. The only person who seems not to be is Sarah. Our son Jack's biological mother, Tess, was Kai's best friend. Sadly, Tess passed away in 2021. Her death came as a real shock, as she had an underlying heart condition that I never knew about. She went to sleep one night and never woke up. Tragically, Jack, who was still a baby, was left alone in his crib, crying all day until Kai became worried that Tess had not responded to her messages. She went to Tess's house to check on her and found Jack in his crib and Tess in her bed. Since no one in Tess's family was able to care for him, we adopted Jack and have been raising him as our own son. He knows who Tess is, and naturally, this is a very sensitive topic for Kai, as the loss was extremely traumatic for both her and Jack. This brings me to what happened last weekend. It was the anniversary of Tess's death, so Kai, Jack, and I went to visit her grave. After visiting, Kai usually becomes very quiet, and this time of year is especially difficult for her. On Sunday, we had a family gathering at my parents' house. These gatherings take place every couple of months, just to catch up. At first, everything seemed normal. Kai and my dad were chatting as usual, though I could see she was having a hard time. My dad suggested they take a walk so she could clear her head, something they have done before, so nothing unusual. However, Steve had an issue with this. He asked why they had left and why he was not invited to walk with them. I explained about Tess and told him Kai just needed a moment. But this was not good enough for Steve. He said she should have gotten over it by now. At that point, my grandpa, who is normally a very calm person, spoke up. He said that his best friend had died more than 20 years ago, and there were still days when he missed him so much it hurt. He told Steve, "You do not just get over things like that." Steve clammed up after that. When Kai and my dad returned, she was much more cheerful. We sat down at the table for a late lunch and began chatting. Everything was fine until Steve interrupted Kai's conversation with my grandpa. When it became clear they were not going to include him, he yelled loudly, "This is stupid. She is getting all the attention because her friend died 3 years ago. Enough already. We are sick of hearing this." The whole table went silent, and just by looking at Kai, I knew she was about to explode. but it did not happen the way I expected. Instead of exploding, she looked at him very calmly and told him that she and Grandpa were not talking about tea, but rather making plans to take him to the Christmas markets. Then she said that if he wanted to be an idiot, that was fine. She went on to tell him that everyone in the family hated him because he was a narcissistic jerk. She told him that every time he did not come to a family gathering, the whole family was much happier. She said there was a reason he did not have any friends, and why his own family could not stand being around him. And that reason was because he was rotten inside. Kai told him that Tess may have only lived for 32 years, but she made a much bigger impact on people than he would if he lived to be 150. She reminded him that Tess's funeral was packed with people because she was so loved, while he would be lucky if anyone other than Sarah showed up at his. After saying that, she got up and walked out into the garden, and I followed her. Few minutes later, my dad came out and said he had asked Sarah and Steve to leave. When we went back inside, Kai apologized to everyone, saying she should have kept quiet. But everyone except my mom told her that what she did was right, and that it was time someone finally told him those things. My dad then laughed about the fact that it was a lesbian who told him the truth, which actually lightened the mood a lot. He spent the rest of the afternoon there before going to pick Jack up from Kai's mom's house, where he had been the night before. The reason I am writing this post is that yesterday I got a call from Sarah telling me that she and Steve wanted an apology from Kai, and that they would not be making it to Christmas. When I reminded her that we would not be going to Christmas either, since this was our year to spend it with Kai's mom, I told her it really did not matter to us. She got upset, insisting she wanted an apology because Kai had been out of line. I told her I would not consider apologizing because I agreed with everything Kai had said, and so did everyone else who was there. She hung up, and I went back to work. Today my dad called me and asked if Kai's mom would be willing to have more people over for Christmas, since he refused to spend it with Steve, so he and my grandpa needed somewhere else to go. Apparently, after Sarah called me, she called my mom and started ranting. My mom told my dad to make Kai apologize, but he refused, and they had an argument. Now my dad has decided he is not going to put up with Steve anymore, even if it affects his relationship with Sarah. He simply cannot take it anymore. My mom, on the other hand, wants Sarah to be there, and since she refuses to go without Steve, my dad has decided to spend Christmas somewhere else, and my grandpa agrees with him. I texted Kai's mom and she said they were welcome. So now my mom is furious, accusing my dad and Kai of breaking up the family. So basically, this whole thing has turned into a disaster. Kai even said she would apologize if I wanted her to, just to keep the peace, but I told her absolutely not. Everything she said was true. I honestly do not know what to do now. The people in my life dislike Steve so much that Kai could have physically attacked him, and they would still think she was right. That is why I am asking strangers who may have dealt with difficult family members for advice. What can we do to get to a place where we can be together amicably? Right now I am struggling to see any solution. My dad told Steve that he is not welcome in their house anymore, and that Sarah has broken up the family because of him. Steve thinks she is only doing this because she is close to Kai, and that Kai is manipulating my dad into saying those things. Both he and Sarah believe that if Kai would just apologize, then my dad would change his mind. Our son is what I was really worried about. We were lucky that Steve did not say what he said in front of Jack this time. But what if he does in the future? I cannot expose him to that. My sister keeps saying it is not that bad and that Jack is too young to understand what is going on. But even though he is only 4, he knows. He would have completely understood what Steve was saying. I told Sarah and Steve that Jack will never be near him again, even if we reconcile. That is why Jack was at Kai's mom's house instead of being with us at my parents' house. Steve does not like Jack, and my mom knows it. Yet she keeps putting her head in the sand. Taking the high road and rising above it all have always been 2 of her favorite things to say to us over the years. But I feel like enough is enough. This time, She crossed a line she cannot come back from. I especially do not want my son around Steve when he is saying things like that about Tess. Sarah is his biggest enabler. But I had not considered that if Steve has no goals, Sarah could end up becoming one for him. My mom thinks that with an apology, everything can go back to normal. But it will not, and she does not understand. My dad is completely determined. He said that every time Steve says anything even remotely unacceptable, he is going to confront him, and that is only if he even allows himself to be in the same room with him. Still, I do feel a little sorry for my sister, because if she cannot come to our parents' house for Christmas or other holidays, then she has nowhere else to go. Steve's family has basically cut him off, so we are all she has. After I wrote my last post, a few things happened in the following hours. The first thing was that I talked to my grandparents on my mom's side. They were there when all of this happened, but they are like my mom and always try to keep the peace, which is why she acts the way she does. They were supposed to spend Christmas with my mom this year, but they changed their minds and decided to spend it with my uncle instead. They also decided they would not be around Steve anymore because he causes too much drama. They asked if they could come see Jack and me on December 23rd before they left for my uncle's, and of course I agreed. This really surprised me and completely shocked my mom because, as I said, my grandparents are some of the most peaceful people I have ever met. But even they had finally had enough. The next thing that happened was that my dad called me to tell me that Sarah and Steve had now decided they wanted Kai to make a public apology in front of the whole family and admit that she was lying, and that the family actually loves Steve. My dad laughed when he told me this and called them delusional. So any chance of even a perfunctory apology went out the window. The third and final thing that happened that day was that Jack came home from his after-school club with a recorder. Honestly, I was most tempted to shove it up the teacher's backside. So, in short, it was not a great day. Through talking to people here, I also realized that Steve has been trying to push Kai and me away from the family. He has been arranging trips that he knows we could not go on, even though, honestly, we would not have gone anyway. Because a weekend with him sounds worse than a paper cut in the eye. He constantly tries to keep my dad away from Kai whenever we are all together. I think this is because he is jealous of Kai and my dad's relationship, since they are very close and often go to classic car shows together several times a year, usually with my grandpa too. Anyway, things were quiet for a few days, until the weekend. In our town, there is a big Christmas fair that runs from November to December. And we always go with my mom, my dad, my grandpa, and Kai's mom. We decided to cheer my mom up a little and went on Sunday, followed by dinner. My mom was told that if Sarah or Steve showed up, we would all leave, and she promised they would not be there. It was a little awkward at first, but then everything relaxed. At one point, Jack wanted my mom and dad to take him to the big snow slide. When my mom came back to us, she had tears in her eyes. I pulled her aside to see what was going on, and she told me that while they were waiting in line, Jack had said he was happy Uncle Steve was not there. When my mom asked him why, he replied that Uncle Steve was a bad man. My mom tried to say that was not the case, but in his typical stubborn 4-year-old style, Jack argued back. He said that at school, he had been taught that people who say mean things all the time are bad, and that Uncle Steve always said mean things. Therefore, Uncle Steve was a bad man, and Jack did not like him. A few weeks ago, there had been a bullying incident in his class, and the teacher gave a lesson about how bad bullying is. I think that is where this came from. This finally broke down my mom's wall. If even a 4-year-old could see how horrible that man is, then she had to see it too. She told me she felt trapped because she hated Steve and agreed with everything Kai had said. But she loved Sarah and did not want to isolate her. I told her that I would always be there for her, but that I was not going to put myself, Jack, or Kai in a position where we had to be around Steve again. I said she had to think about what she truly wanted, not what I, Dad, Kai, Jack, her parents, Sarah, or Steve wanted, but what she herself wanted. She stayed quiet for a moment and then told me that Kai's mom had invited her to spend Christmas with us if she wanted. She could decide on Christmas Day, and Kai would save her a plate. We returned to the group, And soon after, I saw my mom and Kai's mom having a deep conversation as they walked behind us. Neither of them has said what they talked about, but after that conversation, my mom seemed a little happier. They have also been talking ever since, because yesterday, my mom told me she would be coming to Kai's mom's house for Christmas, and they have even been planning to go shopping together next week. When my mom told Sarah after calling me, Sarah predictably lost it and accused my mom of choosing us over her. My mom told her she was choosing to have a good Christmas instead of being belittled and miserable because of Steve and his so-called honesty. Then Sarah called me and asked if I was happy about winning. After that, she did the unforgivable. She used homophobic slurs toward Kai and me, and even called Jack a bastard. I immediately ended the call, blocked her everywhere, and told the rest of my family what had happened. Everyone was as shocked as I was. My grandmother, my mom's mom, even called Sarah and told her she was dead to her, saying she would not have a person like that in the family. Since then, Sarah has been trying to get in touch to apologize, but I keep blocking the fake accounts she creates on Instagram. She knows she crossed an unforgivable line. After this, Steve tried to contact my dad. When my dad finally answered, Steve tried to say that Sarah was just angry and did not mean it. According to my mom, my dad gave him a verbal reprimand and told him he was the worst thing that had ever happened to Sarah and to our family. My dad told Sarah that he was upset with her, but that he would be there for her if she left Steve. Until then, she was on her own. My mom has also lowered contact, but she still wants to leave the door open so that Sarah is not completely isolated. Some people told me Steve could be abusive towards Sarah, but I really do not believe it. He usually acts like a jerk when the spotlight is not on him. He knows that when he says awful things, all the attention turns to him, and he enjoys it. So after Sarah's outburst, I think they are both toxic and feed off that toxicity. She lets him do whatever he wants because she gets pleasure from watching us bite our tongues and keep quiet. So my mom is angry, my dad is angry, our 3 grandparents are angry, the extended family is angry, and Kai is my rock. But I can see she is really upset about what Sarah said about Jack. I am just sad and tired of it all. At least now I know what she really thinks about Jack, Kai, and me. So that is something. It is not the perfect situation, but we are moving forward. It is going to be nice to have both families together this Christmas, for the first time, and not have to worry about Steve being a jerk. Still, I am sad that this is how my relationship with my sister ended. I am trying to get into the Christmas spirit, but it has been difficult. The only things that make me smile are Kai and Jack, acting like fools to cheer me up, even though that recorder can go straight to hell. I curse whoever invented that instrument. Seriously though, thank you to everyone for the support on my original post, and for opening my eyes to some things. Maybe internet strangers really are the solution for advice after all. I hope everyone has a good Christmas or happy holidays. Sarah and Steve, I would not be surprised if they tried to show up at my parents' house for Christmas, but we will not be there, so they would not get very far. As long as they stay away from me, Kai and Jack. I do not care what they do. Sarah eventually stopped trying to contact me during the first week of December. After sending one last message through a mutual friend saying she loved me and was sorry for everything. My dad spoke to her once on Christmas Eve to wish her a Merry Christmas. My mom has spoken to her a few times and even had breakfast with her on Christmas Eve. But that was it. As far as I know, Steve and Sarah spent Christmas at her house alone. I do know they went to a party the day after Christmas with a friend of Sarah's. And apparently, Steve was very well behaved according to someone who was there. Maybe he is finally learning. Who knows? A few people had asked why Steve and his family no longer speak. After talking to my dad, I found out that Steve once said something to his brother's wife at a family gathering. That led to a huge argument that eventually turned physical. After that, Steve's brother refused to have him around his wife and children. Steve's parents then told him he was no longer welcome at family events and slowly cut contact with him as well. Apparently, they only call him on his birthday and Christmas. But that is about it. My dad found out about this from Sarah, who was there when it happened. As always, she tried to downplay it and say Steve's family was overreacting. It sounds pretty familiar. We spent Christmas at Kai's mom's house, and my mom, dad, and grandpa came too. My mom and Kai's mom never really spent much time together before, but lately they have been getting to know each other and have become good friends. They have met for lunch and gone shopping together several times. It is a bit of an odd combination, as my mom is very serious, and Kai's mom was a punk when she was young and is now very interested in buccaneers and natural healing. Seeing my mom dressed in her Sunday best and Kai's mom in her old punk sweatshirt is a rather odd sight. But they get along great. So that is what matters. Christmas was generally fine. Nothing special, just relaxing. Without Steve around, there was no need to be defensive, and Jack was spoiled and enjoyed every second. To be honest, I have to say I miss my sister a lot, and part of me really wanted to call her on Christmas Day. But I know I cannot have her in my life right now. That is really it. Nothing too exciting. I still want to throw Jack's recorder into the sun, but he loves it, and his performance of London Burning is improving. Listening to 26, 4, and 5-year-olds enthusiastically try their hand at playing London Burning on the recorder during the nativity play was one of the funniest things I have ever seen. That got the biggest round of applause of the night. That is for sure. I hope everyone had a great holiday and a bright new year. It is my mom's birthday in a couple of weeks, and I am very tempted to buy her a matching sweatshirt too. As of June 2025, there is really nothing new to say. I have not spoken to my sister or brother-in-law. My dad has spoken to my sister a few times, but he maintains minimal contact, and my mom meets her once a month for lunch. As far as I know, that is it. I still miss her, but life is much simpler without her or me in it.